Chapter 12, Part 1. In this chapter, we're going to introduce the subjunctive. And the subjunctive is a mood. We've been looking at things generally in the indicative mood, where we indicate something. Now we're going into the subjunctive mood, where we tend to indicate potential activity, not stuff that has necessarily happened, but stuff that has a potential to happen. Now, that's not a super precise definition of the subjunctive, because sometimes the subjunctive does indicate stuff that has really happened, but for some reason, historical reasons, you still use the subjunctive in French. Now, there are four subjunctive tenses within the subjunctive mood, and they correspond to tenses that we've seen in the indicative. We've got the present, which is very common. The perfect or the past subjunctive, that would be like the passé composé, that's less common. The imperfect is rare, and the pluperfect is very rare. These last two are only in literary texts, which you might very well have for your exam. And typically, you can expect to see one imperfect or pluperfect subjunctive on your exam. So how do we form the subjunctive? Let's talk about the form before we talk about its function and meaning. The stem is that of the imperfect, which tends to be the stem of the first person plural of the present indicative. So the stem stays the same generally throughout the conjugation, and the endings are the same for all verbs, except, of course, for être and avoir. So let's look at the present subjunctive, and we'll use parler. And now the subjunctive can't stand alone. It can only be in a dependent clause. And so that's why we always have que, that I do something, that something. So the subjunctive in verb tenses always has que in front of it. So we have que je parle, that I speak, que tu parles, that you speak, qu'il parle, that he speaks, que nous parlions, that we speak, que vous parliez, that you speak, and qu'ils parlent, that they speak. Now, notice that everything looks like the present indicative, except for the nous and the vous forms, which look like the imperfect. It's like there's nothing new here in these endings. It's just a new tense where we're rehashing the old endings. Same thing with finir. We have que je finisse, que tu finisses, qu'il finisse, que nous finissions, que vous finissiez, et qu'il finisse. Same endings, but we use the stem, the long stem for the IR verbs finir. So how are we going to translate the subjunctive? We're going to usually translate the present subjunctive like the present indicative, but it can be future or past. That means you can pretty much translate it however you want to so that it makes sense in the context. Oof, that's a relief. Oof is how you say oh, in French. So let's look at some sentences. Il est possible que. So that's it is possible that, and then the phrase it is possible that takes the subjunctive because this is talking about some potential action. Qu'il finisse sa lecture aujourd'hui. So sa lecture is reading. So it is possible that he finishes his reading today. Okay, that would be translated as a present tense. Il est possible qu'il finisse sa lecture demain. So demain is tomorrow. So we would translate that. It's possible that he will finish his reading tomorrow. So that's a future tense we translate, but they're both written in the present subjunctive. Je ne crois pas qu'il se sente malade. So croire is the imperfect of croire, to believe. So this is a negation, ne pas around the conjugated verb. I didn't believe that. Il se sent malade. Se sentir is to feel. This is the present subjunctive. I didn't believe that he felt sick. So this is talking about something I believed in the past. So the past is gonna carry over into the translation here. So the the subjunctive, you basically translate it so it fits the meaning of the context, which is really nice. You don't have to learn when you're going to use the subjunctive. You just need to learn how to translate it. And if you can recognize it, you can basically translate it according to the context. Now, here are some common uses of the present subjunctive, the times when you're likely to see it. One is with the verb vouloir, which means to want, to desire, or to wish. So this is a real general verb that's used quite often. It's also one of what I call the crazy V verbs. There's an awful lot of irregular V verbs that have stems that change all over the place. And you need to create a list of these V verbs, have them marked in your verb charts in the back, somehow be able to when you come across a V verb, figure out which V verb it is. So think about how you can design some type of system so that you don't get messed up with all these V verbs. Je veux qu'il parte. So I want that he leaves. Partir is to leave. So how would we say that in English? We can't say I want that he leaves in English. We can say I want him to leave. I desire that he leaves. I wish that he leaves. I wish that he would leave. A lot of different ways of translating that. Now notice we could even say I desire that he leave. Ooh, that's a weird conjugation. He leave. Now, why does that sound okay in English? That's because in English, we have this little remnant of the subjunctive. And the way that we indicate the subjunctive in English is typically to leave, if the verb ends in an S, to leave off the S. So that's why if I say I desire that he leave, sounds okay because it's a subjunctive and we've heard that somewhere in our history in a poem or in some novel that we've read that was written in a very literary form in the past, something like that. We also use the subjunctive when we're expressing emotions. Je suis content que tu viennes. So I am content. That can be content, or it can be more positive. I'm glad or I'm happy que tu viennes. I'm glad that you are coming, or I'm glad that you will come. Je suis content que tu viennes. Now, vienne comes from venir, and that's an irregular subjunctive. It's not based on the imperfect. We've seen that stem though before for it, and it comes to I'm glad you are coming. It's also used in impersonal expressions. Our expression il faut que, we've seen il faut before meaning it's necessary. Now, if we have an impersonal expression followed by que and a conjugated verb in the subjunctive, that can be translated as you need to, we need to, it's necessary that, you must, all kinds of things, anything that indicates necessity. Il faut que tu réussisses. It's necessary that you succeed, or you must succeed. You have to succeed. Anything like that would be a good translation there. So here are 3 short exercises, and you practice on these and then write down your answers. And once you've written down the answers, check on them in the next video.